Hey guys, 𝗙𝗿𝗲𝗲 here, owner of STP. I've been a test prep coach for over 17 years now, and I've helped thousands of students improve their SAT scores. I don't teach old, outdated strategies for the paper test. I have designed new, effective, innovative strategies for the digital SAT. And I'm not only the owner, I'm also a client. I used my own strategies on the November digital SAT in 2024 to land a 1590. That being said, when people call me and they ask me for help on the SAT, I would say about 50% of those students are trying to land over a 1500 plus. If you're one of those students, this video is perfect for you because I'm going to cover 8 crucial tips that you'll need to follow to ensure you can score in the top 1% nationally. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know I'm giving away our new English workbook for free if you subscribe to our email list. So I'll put a link up here to head to our website and you can grab that today. It's with all the new strategies I've designed for 2025. All right, tip number 1, if you're trying to land a 1500 plus on the SAT, is to focus on efficiency. So when you take a practice test, it won't be good enough for you to just go over the ones that you got wrong. You need to go back and look at the ones you got correct, but it took you too long to solve them. Look at any questions that took you 2 minutes or more and start to figure out ways to get your time down and to solve them more efficiently. Because I promise you, if you're on a question that takes you more than 2 minutes to solve it, there is an easier, quicker way. It is going to be key for you to bank as much extra time as possible so that you can use all that extra time for those 1 or 2 really, really tricky questions at the end that you're going to need more time to figure out. All right, if you're new to my channel or you're returning and you haven't subscribed yet, smash that button and notification bell below because I come out with content every single week to help you master the SAT. All right, tip number 2 is to set realistic expectations and give yourself time. So the worst thing that can happen is if you have an unrealistic expectation and you're pushing yourself to go up 350 points in 1 month. I'm telling you, I've gotten calls like that where a student's at a 1200 and they want a 1550 in less than 30 days. Guys, that is not possible, I'm sorry to say. You're gonna need to give yourself time if you're trying to score in the top 1%. Rule of thumb, think 1 to 2 months for every 100-point increase. And once you're in the 1400s, that last 100 points is really difficult to achieve, so you may need a little bit more time there. Tip number 3, ensure consistency in your score. So listen, if your goal is a 1550 plus and you get a 780 in math one time on one blue book test, that does not mean you're going to get a 780 in math when you go into the real thing. That could be an outlier, or it could have been, an easier test for whatever reason. You want to see consistency in your score and land a 780 on the math 3, 4, or 5 times. That is an indicator that you're likely to score that when you go into the real thing. However, I'm sure many of you know that the blue book tests are said to be easier than the real tests.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? Is this not why you are here?
So even then, there's no guarantee that you're going to go into the real thing and land that 780. But the good news is, as of the filming of this video, College Board has just announced they are including 4 new practice tests in 2025. So they're going to be getting rid of tests 1 through 3, and they're going to be adding tests 7 through 10. So fingers crossed, these new tests are more in line with the difficulty level on the actual exam. If you're finding this video helpful so far, show me some love and hit the like button below. All right, tip number 4, if you're trying to land a 1500 plus, which again, I can't reiterate enough, this is the top 1% of scores nationally. That means out of 100 students, 99 of them cannot score this. You should start freshman or sophomore year. Freshman year is great for just building your skills. I would say read lots of books, get into vocabulary building websites like Membeam or vocab.com, and just really work on building your lexicon and building those skills up. Sophomore year is great if you're a high flyer to start prepping intensively, because junior year is so rigorous and you'll likely have 4 or 5 AP classes junior year. So it's better to just get this out of the way sophomore year, especially if you've already completed Algebra 2. What I find is when I work with a high flyer who's already in pre-calc or calculus, they have a tendency to overcomplicate the math. So get in, get the SAT over with before your classes get more rigorous and while that math is still fresher in your head. Also, starting sophomore year is a win-win because it actually preps you for national merit, which is the PSAT you take the beginning of your junior year. So you're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. All right, tip number 5, plan to take 2 to 3 tests minimum. I'm sorry to say this, guys, but the idea of a one and done is a unicorn. You will likely need to take more than 1 test to land that high score goal. So listen, here's some reasons why you'll want to take more than 1 test. For one thing, the first time you go in there, it's going to be a little nerve-wracking. You want to get the jitters out. You're going to get a feel for the environment and you'll get more desensitized to the high stakes anxiety vibe of the test. So every subsequent time you go in there, you're going to feel a little bit more confident. You're going to feel a little bit more comfortable. The second reason why you'll want to take 2 to 3 tests is because a lot of the questions repeat. Maybe not necessarily the same exact question, but a question that's very similar where just the numbers are changed or the passage is the same, but just the question has changed. So it's really nice to get exposure to these official unreleased questions because the more exposure you have to them, the more likely you're going to see it again on a future test. Lastly, taking more than 1 test gives you the best chance of super scoring, which is taking your highest math and highest English and putting them together. And quite frankly, to score over 1500, you're going to need every strategy you can get, and super scoring is a big way to get you there. All right, tip number 6, experiment with different approaches. So while you're prepping, please try out different things. Try them on for size, see what works for you, okay? This is an individual journey.
No, no, no! Frodo! Mr. Frodo! No, Sam.
So although we have certain strategies and approaches that we'll teach our students, we're super open to figuring out, okay, what worked for you? What didn't work for you? Let's try this instead. And I want you to do that if you're prepping on your own as well. So try something out. For instance, we have different execution strategies for the English modules. So one strategy is to jump and start at number 15. Another strategy is to start at the very end at number 27 and work backwards, which is actually what I like to do. And then you could also start at number 1, work to number 10, skip some of the hard reading passages, work to the end and come back. So that's all in our English workbook, by the way. So again, link up here, go grab that, sign up for our newsletter. You'll see the different executions you can try. Try everything out. Keep an open mind. Don't pigeonhole yourself or put your eggs in one basket with one plan, because there might be something better for you and you want to customize your approach to maximize your points. All right, tip number 7, you want to practice as if it's the real thing. So I'm talking super serious practices, guys. When you sit down to take a full test, make sure you're in a quiet environment. Make sure you give yourself 2 hours and 15 minutes of time to take the full thing in one sitting. Take that 10-minute break in the middle, but basically replicate the real test day conditions. Have one piece of scrap paper, have a pencil, have your TI-84 or whatever calculator you're using. Be super serious about each practice because you want to build these good test-taking habits now so that they're ready to go when you get into the real test. Not to mention, endurance is important. I know it's only a 2-hour test. It's much better than the 3.5-hour paper test, but it still is a drain towards the end. So if you're not doing the test in one sitting, you're not building that endurance for test day. It's like going to run a marathon when all you've been doing to train are 5Ks. So try to avoid getting up, pausing the test to get a snack, and all those things that will impede from you building that endurance. Tip number 8, slow down. So if you're a high flyer and you think you're bussing, you might need to slow down. You're probably making careless mistakes. So please, when you go through your practices, take a look at each one you missed and assess why you missed it, okay? If you're making careless mistakes, that is going to kill your score. You will not get into the 1500s that way. So some things you'll want to do to slow down is make sure you're writing out your work. So if you're on an algebra problem on the math modules, show +5 on both sides. Divide by 10, divide by 10. I know that this is super basic, but when the math is easy for you, honestly, you're going to go on autopilot and then not really fully be present with the problems. I'm speaking from personal experience with this. There were many years where I would go into an SAT and come out with a 780 on the math, which was so frustrating because I would make a couple careless mistakes. So make sure you're writing out your work and you're being thorough. And then the second thing I would say is go back and check all of your work. So on that November test where I landed the 1590, I was able to be efficient enough and to bank enough time to go back to every single question that I flagged. And then on the math to go back to every single question and redo it. So do whatever it takes to avoid those careless mistakes. All right, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful for you. If you are interested in SAT coaching to work with someone who's already walked the walk and landed above a 1500, our team is actually taking new students right now for 2025. So head to our website. I'll link it again up here. Request a consultation. It's also in the link in the description below. And until next time, guys, happy prepping.